Unexpected visitor. The night sky glittered with stars as Zoe finished her late-night study session. As an astrophysics graduate student, she often found herself awake at odd hours, poring over data from distant galaxies. Tonight was no different, except for the strange humming sound that kept distracting her. At first, Zoe dismissed it as her sleep-deprived mind playing tricks. But as the minutes ticked by, the hum grew louder, more insistent. It wasn't coming from inside her small apartment. It seemed to be emanating from somewhere outside. Curiosity got the better of her. Zoe set down her tablet and walked to the window, pulling back the curtains. Her eyes widened in disbelief at the sight before her. Hovering just beyond her third-floor balcony was a glowing, disc-shaped object about the size of a car. Its surface shimmered with an iridescent light that pulsed in rhythm with the humming sound. As Zoe watched, frozen in place, a section of the disc's underside opened like an iris. A figure emerged, gracefully descending to her balcony. In the pale moonlight, Zoe could make out a slender, humanoid form. But as it stepped closer to her window, she realized this was no human. The being stood nearly 7 feet tall, with silvery skin that seemed to shimmer like the surface of the craft. Its large, almond-shaped eyes glowed with an inner light, shifting through a rainbow of colors. Instead of hair, delicate tendrils cascaded from its head, swaying gently as if suspended in water. Zoe's heart raced. Her mind, usually so analytical, struggled to process what she was seeing. An alien, an actual, living alien was standing on her balcony. The being raised a slim hand, placing it gently against the glass. Its eyes locked with Zoe's, and she felt a wave of calm wash over her. Without fully understanding why, she found herself reaching for the latch and opening the window. "Hello, Zoe," the alien said, its voice melodic and androgynous. "I apologize for the late hour, but I'm in need of your help." Zoe blinked, her scientific mind kicking into gear despite the surreal situation. You speak English." The alien's mouth curved into what might have been a smile. "I speak many languages. Your father taught me this one." "My father?" Zoe's brow furrowed in confusion. Her dad was a retired Air Force pilot who now spent most of his time fishing and tinkering with old cars. "I think you must have the wrong person." The alien shook its head, tendrils swaying. "No, Zoe Anderson, daughter of Colonel Jack Anderson. I am Lyra and your father, and I have known each other for a very long time." Zoe's mind reeled. Her father had never mentioned anything about aliens, but then again, who would? I don't understand. How do you know my dad?" Lyra's expression grew serious. "There is much you don't know, Zoe, much that has been kept from you for your own protection. But time is short, and I need your help. May I come in?" Still in a daze, Zoe stepped back, allowing Lyra to enter her apartment. The alien moved with a fluid grace, seeming to glide rather than walk. Up close, Zoe could see intricate patterns swirling beneath Lyra's skin, like luminescent tattoos. "What's going on?" Zoe asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why are you here?" Lyra turned to face her, eyes shimmering with urgency. "Your father is in danger, Zoe, and by extension, so is your entire planet." The weight of those words hit Zoe like a physical force. She sank onto a couch, mind racing. "My dad, in danger. From what?" "From those who would use his knowledge for terrible purposes," Lyra explained, moving to sit beside her. "Your father has been part of a secret interstellar exchange program for decades. He and others like him have worked to build bridges between Earth and other civilizations, preparing humanity for its eventual place in the galactic community." Zoe shook her head, struggling to reconcile this information with everything she thought she knew about her father. "But he's just a retired pilot. He spends his time fishing and working on cars." Lyra's expression softened. "That is a life he shows the world, yes. But it is not the whole truth. Your father has traveled to distant stars, Zoe. He has been an ambassador for humanity, helping to forge alliances and share knowledge. And now he's in danger. Zoe asked, her protective instincts flaring despite her confusion. Lyra nodded solemnly. There are those in the galaxy who fear humanity's potential. They see your species as a threat, one to be eliminated before you can take your place among the stars. They have discovered the exchange program and are moving to neutralize everyone involved. Zoe's heart raced. We have to warn him. I've tried, Lyra said, a note of frustration in her melodic voice. But something is blocking our usual channels of communication. That's why I came to you. I need your help to reach him, to get him to safety before it's too late. Zoe stood, pacing the small living room as she tried to process everything. Her entire worldview had been shattered in a matter of minutes. Her father, a secret interstellar diplomat. Aliens not only real but apparently commonplace enough to have factions and politics. It was almost too much to believe. And yet, the evidence was right in front of her. Lyra's presence was undeniable, as was the craft still hovering silently beyond her balcony. Okay, Zoe said, taking a deep breath to steady herself. Okay, let's say I believe all this. What do we do? How can I help? Lyra stood, moving to the center of the room. With a graceful wave of her hand, a holographic display sprang to life, filling the air with swirling star maps and streams of alien text. Your father's last known location was here, Lyra said, gesturing to a pulsing point of light. A research outpost on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. We believe he was working on a project involving dark matter propulsion technology. Zoe's scientific mind latched onto that, momentarily overriding her concern. Dark matter propulsion. That's incredible. The applications for space travel would be revolutionary. Exactly, Lyra nodded. Which is why those who fear humanity's advancement want to stop it. Your father's work could give your species the ability to traverse vast distances of space in the blink of an eye. So what do we do? Zoe asked, studying the holographic display. How do we reach him? Lyra waved her hand again, and the image shifted to show a sleek spacecraft. This is my ship, the Star Waver. It's capable of reaching Europa in a matter of hours. But I can't approach the outpost directly. My presence will alert those hunting your father. You want me to go? Zoe realized, her voice a mix of fear and excitement. Lyra nodded. You're human, and you share your father's DNA. You should be able to bypass the outpost's security measures. Once inside, you can warn him and bring him to an extraction point where I can pick you both up. Zoe's mind raced with the implications. Leave Earth, travel to Europa. It was the stuff of her wildest dreams as a child, the very reason she pursued astrophysics. But the reality of it, the danger involved, was terrifying. I don't know if I can do this, she admitted, her voice shaking. I'm just a student. I don't know anything about space travel or alien politics or any of this. Lyra moved closer, placing a comforting hand on Zoe's shoulder. The touch sent a warm, calming energy through her body. You are more capable than you know, Zoe Anderson. Your father has prepared you for this moment your entire life, even if you didn't realize it. Zoe thought back to all the camping trips, the survival training her dad had insisted on, the countless hours spent stargazing and discussing theoretical physics. Had it all been preparation for something like this? How long do we have? She asked, her resolve beginning to solidify. Not long, Lyra replied, glancing at the holographic display. My sensors indicate that a ship belonging to the Shadowclave, the group hunting your father, has entered your solar system. We need to leave within the hour if we hope to reach him first. Zoe took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. The fate of her father, possibly even her entire planet, rested on her shoulders. It was terrifying, overwhelming, and yet, a small part of her thrilled at the adventure of it all. Okay, she said, meeting Lyra's shimmering gaze. I'll do it. Tell me what I need to know. Lyra's expression brightened, relief evident in her features. Thank you, Zoe. Your courage honors your father and your species. Come, we have much to prepare and little time. As Lyra began explaining the intricacies of her ship and the mission ahead, Zoe's mind whirled with possibilities. In the span of an hour, her life had transformed from that of an ordinary student to a participant in a grand cosmic adventure. She only hoped she was up to the challenge that lay ahead. As she followed Lyra onto the balcony and toward the waiting ship, Zoe cast one last glance at her apartment, at her old life. Whatever happened next, she knew nothing would ever be the same again. The Starweaver's hatch rised open, revealing a cockpit that seemed to defy the laws of physics. It was larger on the inside than should have been possible, filled with softly glowing control panels and view screens that appeared to float in midair. As Zoe stepped inside, her scientific curiosity momentarily overrode her anxiety. "How is this possible?" she breathed, reaching out to touch one of the floating displays. Her fingers passed through it, leaving ripples in its wake. "Dimensional folding," Lyra explained, moving to what appeared to be the pilot's seat. "We've learned to manipulate space-time on a localized level. It allows for more efficient use of space in our vessels." Zoe shook her head in wonder. The implications for physics are staggering. This technology could revolutionize. "Focus, Zoe," Lyra gently interrupted. "We can discuss the science later. Right now, we need to get underway. Please secure yourself in one of the acceleration couches." Nodding, Zoe settled into a seat that seemed to mold itself to her body. As soon as she was settled, glowing straps materialized across her chest and legs, holding her securely in place. "Preparing for launch," Lyra announced, her hands dancing over the control panels. "Zoe, I must warn you, the initial acceleration may be intense." Before Zoe could ask what that meant, the ship surged upward with a force that took her breath away. The view outside the cockpit blurred as they shot through the atmosphere, the blackness of space rushing to meet them. In a matter of seconds, they had left Earth behind. Zoe gasped as she saw her home planet growing smaller in the view screen, a beautiful blue marble suspended in the void. "That was fast," she managed, her voice shaky. Lyra nodded, not taking her eyes off the controls. "We'll be approaching Jupiter's orbit in approximately 2 Earth hours. In the meantime, I suggest you rest. Once we reach Europa, things may become complicated." As the adrenaline of their departure began to fade, exhaustion crept over Zoe. Despite the excitement and worry churning in her mind, she found her eyelids growing heavy. The acceleration couch was surprisingly comfortable, and the gentle hum of the ship's systems was oddly soothing. Just before sleep claimed her, Zoe's last thoughts were of her father. Was he truly in danger? And if so, would she be able to save him? As Zoe drifted into an uneasy slumber, the Starweaver sped silently through the solar system, carrying its human passenger toward a destiny she could never have imagined. Unraveling secrets. Zoe awoke with a start, momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar surroundings. The events of the past few hours came rushing back as she took in the softly glowing interior of the Starweaver. "We're approaching Europa," Lyra's melodic voice announced. "It's time to prepare for your mission." Zoe unbuckled herself from the acceleration couch, her legs wobbling slightly as she adjusted to the ship's artificial gravity. She made her way to the front of the cockpit, where a breathtaking view awaited her. Jupiter loomed large in the view screen, its swirling storms and vibrant bands of color more vivid than any telescope image Zoe had ever seen. And there, a tiny ice-covered moon against the gas giant's backdrop, was Europa. "It's beautiful," Zoe breathed, her scientific mind marveling at the sight. "And dangerous," Lyra added, her expression grave. "The Shadowclave may already have agents on the surface. We must act quickly." A holographic display materialized between them, showing a detailed map of Europa's surface. A pulsing red dot indicated their target. "This is the entrance to the research outpost," Lyra explained. "It's hidden beneath the ice, accessible only through a series of secure airlocks. Your father's DNA signature should grant you access, but be cautious. We don't know what you'll find inside." Zoe nodded, trying to quell the nervousness rising in her chest. What about communications? How will I contact you once I'm inside? Lyra held out her hand, revealing a small, iridescent stone. This is a quantum entanglement communicator. It will allow us to stay in contact regardless of any interference. Simply hold it and focus your thoughts, and I will hear you. As Zoe took the stone, a sudden realization struck her. Wait, how am I supposed to breathe down there? I don't have a spacesuit. Lyra's mouth curved into what might have been a smile. Ah, yes, I have something for that as well. She retrieved a small vial filled with a shimmering silver liquid. This is a nanobot solution. When ingested, it will form a protective field around your body, allowing you to breathe and withstand the extreme conditions on Europa's surface. Zoe eyed the vial warily. Is it safe? Perfectly, Lyra assured her. It's been tested extensively on humans. The effects will last approximately 6 hours, which should be more than enough time for your mission. Taking a deep breath, Zoe uncapped the vial and downed its contents in one gulp. The liquid was cool and tasteless, but she could feel a strange tingling sensation spreading throughout her body. Fascinating, she murmured, watching as a faint, shimmering field became visible around her skin. The applications for this technology are incredible. Deep-sea exploration, hazardous environment work, space colonization. Focus, Zoe, Lyra gently admonished. Remember why we're here. Zoe nodded, pushing her scientific curiosity aside. Right. Find my dad, warn him about the Shadowclave, and get him to the extraction point. Anything else I should know? Lyra's expression turned serious. Trust your instincts, Zoe. Your father has prepared you for this more than you realize. And remember, time is of the essence. The longer we remain here, the greater the chance of detection. With a wave of Lyra's hand, a section of the cockpit floor arised open, revealing a small chamber below. This will take you to the surface. Are you ready? Zoe took a deep breath, squaring her shoulders. As ready as I'll ever be. She stepped into the chamber, her heart pounding as the opening closed above her. There was a brief sensation of movement, and then the bottom of the chamber became transparent, revealing Europa's icy surface rushing up to meet her. The descent was swift but surprisingly gentle. As Zoe's feet touched the frozen ground, she marveled at the lack of impact. The nanobot field seemed to absorb the shock, allowing her to stand comfortably on the frigid surface. Europa's landscape was alien and beautiful. Endless plains of ice stretched in every direction, broken only by jagged ridges and deep crevasses. In the distance, plumes of water vapor erupted from the surface, a testament to the hidden ocean below. The entrance should be approximately 100 meters to your east. Lyra's voice echoed in Zoe's mind, thanks to the quantum communicator. Zoe began walking, each step accompanied by a satisfying crunch of ice. Despite the harsh conditions, she felt no cold, no difficulty breathing. The nanobot field was working perfectly. As she approached the coordinates Lyra had given her, Zoe noticed a slight irregularity in the ice. A barely visible seam formed a large circle, about 10 meters in diameter. I think I found it, Zoe thought, directing her words to Lyra. But how do I open it? Place your hand on the ice, Lyra instructed. The sensors should detect your DNA and grant you access. Zoe did as she was told, pressing her palm against the frozen surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a low rumble, the circular section of ice began to descend, revealing a brightly lit airlock chamber below. Taking a deep breath, Zoe stepped onto the platform. As soon as she was clear of the opening, the ice closed above her, and she felt the chamber begin to descend. The ride down seemed to take forever. Zoe's mind raced with possibilities. What would she find at the bottom? Would her father be there? And if so, how would he react to seeing her? Finally, the chamber came to a stop. A door slid open, revealing a long, sterile corridor lined with pulsing lights. I'm in, Zoe thought to Lyra. Any idea where I should start looking? Your father's quarters should be on the lowest level, Lyra replied. But be cautious. If the shadowclave has already infiltrated the base, they may be lying in wait. Zoe nodded, even though Lyra couldn't see her. She began making her way down the corridor, her footsteps echoing in the eerie silence. As she walked, Zoe couldn't help but marvel at the technology surrounding her. Holographic displays lined the walls, showing readouts of various experiments and environmental data. It was a scientist's dream, and under different circumstances, she would have been ecstatic to explore every inch of the facility. But her father's safety had to come first. Zoe quickened her pace, following the signs toward the living quarters on the lower levels. As she descended deeper into the base, an uneasy feeling began to grow in the pit of her stomach. Something wasn't right. The facility seemed empty. No scientists bustling about, no security personnel on patrol. Where was everyone? Zoe's unease grew as she reached the lowest level. The corridor here was darker, the pulsing lights along the walls flickering ominously. Lyra, she thought, her mental voice tinged with worry. Something's wrong. I haven't seen anyone since I arrived. It's like the place is deserted. Be on your guard, Lyra replied, her tone urgent. If the shadowclave has already been here. Zoe's heart raced as she approached a door marked Dr. J. Anderson, project lead, her father's quarters. With a trembling hand, she pressed her palm to the access panel. The door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing a small, cluttered room beyond. Zoe stepped inside, her eyes darting around, taking in every detail. The room looked like it had been recently occupied. A half-empty cup of coffee sat on the desk, next to a scattered array of data pads and holographic projectors. Her father's jacket hung on the back of a chair. But there was no sign of Dr. Anderson himself. Dad. Zoe called out, her voice echoing in the empty room. Dad, are you here? As she moved further into the room, something caught her eye. A small, pulsing light emanating from beneath a pile of papers on the desk. Zoe brushed them aside, revealing a device she didn't recognize. It was roughly the size and shape of a smartphone, but made of a strange, shifting material that seemed to change color as she looked at it. The pulsing light originated from a small screen on its surface. As Zoe picked up the device, it suddenly sprang to life. A holographic image of her father materialized above it, his face etched with worry and fatigue. Zoe, the hologram said, its voice tinged with static. If you're seeing this, then things have gone even worse than I feared. I don't have much time, so listen carefully. Zoe's breath caught in her throat as she stared at the image of her father. He looked older than she remembered, his hair grayer, his face lined with stress. The work we've been doing here, the hologram continued, it's more important than you can imagine. We've made a breakthrough, something that could change the course of human history. But there are those who would use it for terrible purposes. Dr. Anderson's image flickered, his expression growing more urgent. I've had to go into hiding. The shadowclave. They're closer than we thought. Trust Lyra, she'll know what to do. And Zoe, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for keeping you in the dark all these years. I thought I was protecting you, but I see now that I was wrong. The hologram reached out, as if trying to touch her. You're stronger than you know, sweetheart. Braver than I ever was. Find the Star Child. It's the key to everything. And remember, no matter what happens, I low. The message cut off abruptly, leaving Zoe staring at empty air, her mind reeling from what she'd just heard. Lyra, she thought, her mental voice shaky. Did you get all that? What's a Star Child? And where's my father? Before Lyra could respond, a loud alarm began blaring throughout the facility. Red warning lights flashed along the corridors, and a computerized voice echoed through the speakers. Warning. Unauthorized presence detected. Security protocols initiated. All personnel evacuate immediately. Zoe's heart raced as she realized the implications. Lyra, they know I'm here. What do I do? Get out of there now. Lyra's voice was urgent in her mind. Head for the surface. I'll try to create a distraction to cover your escape. Catching her father's mysterious device, Zoe ran from the room. As she sprinted down the corridor toward the elevators, she could hear the sound of heavy footsteps and voices shouting in the distance. The Shadowclave had arrived, and Zoe was trapped in a maze of alien technology with nowhere to run. As she raced toward an uncertain escape, one thought kept repeating in her mind: find the Star Child. It's the key to everything. But how could she find something when she didn't even know what it was? And more importantly, how was she going to get out of this alive? The chase was on, and the fate of not just her father, but possibly the entire human race, hung in the balance. Galactic pursuit. Zoe's heart pounded as she raced through the labyrinthine corridors of the Europa base. The blaring alarms and flashing red lights created a disorienting environment, but adrenaline kept her moving forward. Lyra, she thought frantically, clutching the quantum communicator. I need a way out. There's an emergency escape pod on level 3, Lyra's voice echoed in her mind. Head there immediately. I'm engaging the Starweaver's cloaking device to avoid detection. As Zoe sprinted toward the nearest elevator, she heard shouts echoing from behind her. Risking a glance over her shoulder, she caught sight of several humanoid figures in sleek, black armor rounding the corner. Their helmets were adorned with pulsing red visors that seemed to glow with malevolent intent. Shadowclave agents, Zoe realized with a jolt of fear. She dove into the elevator just as a bolt of crackling energy scorched the wall where she had been standing moments before. The doors slid shut, and Zoe jabbed frantically at the level 3 button. As the elevator ascended, Zoe tried to catch her breath and process everything that had happened. Her father was missing, hunted by an interstellar organization for reasons she didn't fully understand. And now she was in possession of a device that apparently held the key to what? The fate of humanity. The elevator chimed as it reached level 3, snapping Zoe back to the present danger. She cautiously peered out into the corridor, relieved to find it empty for the moment. The escape pod should be at the end of this hallway, Lara instructed. Hurry, Zoe. My sensors indicate the Shadowclave are converging on your position. Zoe sprinted down the corridor, her eyes scanning for anything that looked like it might be an escape pod. Finally, she spotted a circular hatch with emergency markings. Just as she reached for the hatch controls, a menacing voice rang out behind her. Stop right there, human. Zoe froze, slowly turning to face the source of the voice. 3 Shadowclave agents stood at the other end of the hallway, their weapons trained on her. The one in the center stepped forward, his helmet retracting to reveal a face that was almost human, save for the metallic sheen of his skin and the glowing red eyes. Hand over the device, he demanded, extending a gloved hand. Do so, and we might let you live. Zoe's mind raced. She knew she couldn't give up her father's device, but she also had no way to fight against these clearly superior opponents. Time seemed to slow as she weighed her options. Suddenly, inspiration struck. The nanobot field had allowed her to survive on Europa's surface. Maybe it could do more. Focusing her thoughts, Zoe willed the nanobots to form a barrier between her and the Shadowclave agents. To her amazement, the shimmering field expanded, solidifying into a translucent wall. The Shadowclave opened fire, but their energy bolts dissipated harmlessly against the nanobot shield. Seizing the moment of confusion, Zoe slammed her hand on the escape pod controls. The hatch erased open, and Zoe dove inside, the nanobot field collapsing back around her body as she did so. She could hear the furious shouts of the Shadowclave agents as the hatch sealed shut behind her. Lyra, Zoe shouted both aloud and in her mind. I'm in the pod. Get me out of here. The escape pod rumbled to life, and Zoe felt a sudden violent acceleration as it launched from the base. Through a small viewport, she watched as Europa's icy surface fell away, replaced by the vast, starry expanse of space. For a moment, Zoe allowed herself to feel a glimmer of hope. She had escaped. But her relief was short-lived as she spotted several sleek, black ships emerging from Europa's surface. The Shadowclave fleet, Lyra's voice rang in Zoe's mind, tinged with urgency. They're in pursuit. Hold on, Zoe. This is going to get turbulent. Before Zoe could ask what that meant, she felt the escape pod lurch as an unseen force grabbed it. The Starweaver, still cloaked, had locked onto the pod with a tractor beam. What followed was the most harrowing ride of Zoe's life. The Starweaver weaved and dodged through space, narrowly avoiding the barrage of weapons fire from the pursuing Shadowclay ships. Zoe was tossed about in the escape pod, grateful for the protection of the nanobot field as she collided with the walls. "I'm going to attempt an emergency warp jump," Lyra announced. "Brace yourself, Zoe. This will be intense." Zoe barely had time to tighten her grip on the pod's handholds before the universe seemed to stretch and distort around her. Stars blurred into lines, then swirling vortexes of light. The pod shuddered violently, and Zoe felt as though she was being pulled in every direction at once. And then, as suddenly as it began, it was over. The pod stabilized, and through the viewport, Zoe saw an unfamiliar starfield. "Where are we?" she gasped, her head spinning from the jump. "Approximately 100 light-years from Earth," Lyra replied. "I'm bringing you aboard now." The escape pod was enveloped in a soft blue light, and Zoe felt it being drawn into the Starweaver. As the larger ship's airlock cycled, Zoe stumbled out of the pod on shaky legs. Lyra was there to meet her, the alien's luminescent eyes filled with concern. "Are you all right, Zoe? I apologize for the rough journey, but it was necessary to evade the Shadowclave." Zoe nodded, taking deep breaths to steady herself. "I'm okay. But Lyra, what's going on? Why are they after us? And what is this?" She held up her father's device. Lyra's expression grew serious. "That, Zoe, is a map to the Star Child, and if I'm right, it may be the most important object in the galaxy." Zoe's mind reeled. But what is the Star Child? My father's message said it was the key to everything, but he didn't explain what it actually is. Lyra guided Zoe to the Starweaver's control room, bringing up a holographic display of the galaxy. The Star Child is complicated. It's part mythical artifact, part hyper-advanced technology. According to legend, it was created by an ancient race known as the Precursors, beings of such advanced evolution that they transcended physical form. The hologram zoomed in on a particular region of space, highlighting a strange anomaly that pulsed with energy. "This is the last known location of the Star Child," Lyra explained. "It's said to have the power to accelerate evolution, to bridge the gap between physical and energy-based life forms. In the right hands, it could usher in a new era of peace and understanding throughout the galaxy." "And in the wrong hands?" Zoe asked, though she feared she already knew the answer. Lyra's eyes darkened. "In the wrong hands, it could be used to subjugate entire species, to forcibly evolve them according to the wielder's desires. The Shadowclay seeks to use it to reshape the galaxy in their image, with humanity as their first test subjects." Zoe felt the weight of this revelation settling on her shoulders. "So that's what my dad was working on. He was trying to find the Star Child before the Shadowclave could get to it." Lyra nodded. "Your father is a brave man, Zoe. He's been working with our alliance for years, using his scientific expertise to help decode the clues left behind by the Precursors. That device you're holding contains all of his research, including the final coordinates of the Star Child's resting place." Zoe looked down at the device in her hands, marveling at how something so small could be so important. "So what do we do now?" "Now," Lyra said, her voice filled with determination, "we find the Star Child before the Shadowclave does. And to do that, we're going to need help." The holographic display shifted, showing a distant space station orbiting a ringed gas giant. "This is Nexus Station," Lyra explained. "It's a haven for outcasts, rebels, and free thinkers from across the galaxy. If we're going to mount a mission to retrieve the Star Child, this is where we'll find our crew." Zoe nodded, a mix of fear and excitement coursing through her. In the span of a day, she had gone from being a graduate student to a key player in a galactic conflict. It was overwhelming, terrifying, and exhilarating. "All right," she said, squaring her shoulders. "Let's do this. For my dad, for Earth, for the whole galaxy." Lyra's mouth curved into what might have been a smile. "You truly are your father's daughter, Zoe Anderson. A shadowclave won't know what hit them." As the Star Weaver's engines hummed to life, setting a course for Nexus Station, Zoe couldn't help but feel a sense of destiny. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever dangers they would face, she knew that this was where she was meant to be. The hunt for the Star Child had begun, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. Human ingenuity unleashed. The Star Weaver glided silently through the vast expanse of space, its sleek form barely visible against the backdrop of stars. Inside, Zoe sat at a holographic console, her fingers dancing over the controls as she pored over the data from her father's device. "This is incredible," she murmured, her eyes wide with wonder. "The mathematical models, the quantum theories, it's like nothing I've ever seen before." Lyra nodded, her luminescent eyes scanning the displays. "Your father's work is truly groundbreaking. He's managed to blend human intuition with alien technology in ways even we hadn't considered." As they approached Nexus Station, Zoe couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and trepidation. The massive structure loomed before them, a patchwork of different architectural styles that spoke to its diverse inhabitants. "Remember," Lyra cautioned as they prepared to dock, "Nexus Station operates under its own rules. Stay alert and try not to draw too much attention to yourself." Zoe nodded, tucking her father's device securely into a hidden pocket. As they disembarked, she was immediately overwhelmed by the sights, sounds, and smells of the station. Aliens of all shapes and sizes bustled about, their languages creating a cacophony of unfamiliar sounds. "So, where do we start?" Zoe asked, trying to take it all in. Lyra led her through the crowded corridors, weaving between merchants hawking exotic wares and shady-looking characters engaged in hushed negotiations. "We need to find someone who can help us decode the final coordinates from your father's research," Lyra explained, "and I know just the person, if we can convince her to help us." They arrived at a dimly lit bar tucked away in one of the station's lower levels. The sign above the door flickered in an alien script that rearranged itself every few seconds. Inside, the air was thick with smoke from various intoxicants. Zoe's eyes were drawn to a figure sitting alone at the bar, a woman with deep blue skin and hair that seemed to float and shimmer like fiber optics. Lyra approached her cautiously. "Nova, we need your help." The woman turned, her solid silver eyes narrowing as she took in Lyra and Zoe. Well, if it isn't the idealistic Lyra, and you've brought a human. How quaint." Zoe bristled at the dismissive tone but held her tongue. They needed this woman's help. Lyra pressed on. "Nova, this is important. We're looking for the Star Child and—" Nova's laughter cut her off. "The Star Child? That old myth. Please, I thought you were smarter than that, Lyra." "It's real," Zoe interjected, unable to stay silent any longer. She pulled out her father's device. "And we have proof." Nova's eyes widened as she saw the device. In a flash, she had snatched it from Zoe's hands, her fingers flying over its surface. "Impossible," she breathed, her earlier skepticism evaporating. "These equations, this is beyond anything I've ever seen." Lyra gently but firmly took the device back, handing it to Zoe. "Now do you believe us? Will you help?" Nova was silent for a long moment, her silver eyes unreadable. Finally, she nodded. "All right, but not here. Follow me." She led them through a maze of back alleys and hidden passages until they reached a secluded workshop crammed with advanced technology. Nova immediately set to work, interfacing Zoe's device with her own systems. As holograms sprang to life around them, Zoe couldn't help but marvel at the alien tech. It was like something out of her wildest dreams. "Your father's work is impressive," Nova admitted grudgingly. "But there are still gaps. The final coordinates are encrypted in a way I've never seen before." Zoe stepped forward, her scientific mind kicking into high gear. "Maybe I can help." My dad always said I had a knack for seeing patterns others missed. Nova looked skeptical but moved aside. Zoe immersed herself in the data, her fingers flying over the holographic interface. Hours passed in a blur of numbers and alien symbols. Finally, just as Lyra and Nova were beginning to lose hope, Zoe let out a triumphant cry. "I've got it. The encryption key. It's based on the harmonic frequencies of pulsars." Nova's eyes widened in surprise. Of course, using celestial bodies as a cosmic encryption key. Brilliant. With the key decrypted, the final coordinates of the Starchild's location revealed themselves. But their elation was short-lived. An explosion rocked the station, sending them all stumbling. Alarms blared as a familiar, menacing voice echoed through the comm systems. "Attention, residents of Nexus Station. This is the Shadowclave. Surrender the human and her alien accomplices immediately, or we will be forced to take more drastic measures." Zoe's heart raced as she looked to Lyra and Nova. How did they find us so quickly? Nova's expression darkened. "We have a bigger problem. Those coordinates you just decrypted. They're being broadcast across every frequency. The entire galaxy now knows where to find the Starchild." Lyra's luminescent eyes flashed with determination. "Then we need to get there first. Nova, we could use your help." Nova hesitated for a moment before nodding. "Fine, but only because I want to see this Starchild for myself. And if it turns out to be real, well, let's just say my price will be steep." As they raced back to the Starweaver, dodging panicked crowds and debris from the Shadowclave's attack, Zoe's mind whirled with possibilities. They had the coordinates, but reaching the Starchild first wouldn't be easy. They needed an edge, something unexpected. Suddenly, an idea struck her. "Wait, I think I know how we can beat them there." Lyra and Nova turned to her, curiosity evident in their alien features. Zoe's eyes shone with excitement. "My father's research, it wasn't just about finding the Starchild. He was working on experimental propulsion technology. If we can integrate it with the Starweaver systems." Nova caught on quickly. "We could create a hybrid drive that surpasses anything the Shadowclave has. It's risky, but it's our best shot," Lyra finished. As they reached the Starweaver, alarms blaring around them, Zoe felt a surge of determination. This was what her father had prepared her for, whether he knew it or not. Human ingenuity combined with alien technology, it was time to show the galaxy what they could do. The ship's engines rolled to life as Nova's fingers danced over the controls, implementing Zoe's improvised upgrades. The Starweaver shuddered, energy crackling around its hull as the hybrid drive engaged. In a flash of light that momentarily outshone the stars themselves, they vanished from Nexus Station, leaving the Shadowclave far behind. The race for the Starchild had begun in earnest, and thanks to Zoe's quick thinking, they were in the lead, for now. As the Starweaver hurtled through space at speeds that defied conventional physics, Zoe couldn't help but feel a mix of terror and exhilaration. They were pushing the boundaries of known science, embarking on a journey that could change the fate of the entire galaxy. And somehow, improbably, she found herself at the center of it all. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever dangers they would face, Zoe knew one thing for certain: human ingenuity, combined with the wonders of the cosmos, was a force to be reckoned with. The Shadowclave, and anyone else who stood in their way, was about to learn that lesson firsthand. A new alliance. The Starweaver streaked through the cosmos, its hybrid drive leaving a trail of shimmering quantum particles in its wake. Inside the ship, Zoe, Lyra, and Nova worked feverishly to stabilize their experimental propulsion system while racing towards the Starchild's coordinates. "We're approaching the outer boundary of the Whirlpool Galaxy," Nova announced, her silver eyes fixed on the swerving holographic display. "If your father's calculations are correct, the Starchild should be located in the heart of the celestial nexus." Zoe leaned forward, studying the map with a mixture of awe and trepidation. The celestial nexus was a massive confluence of stellar nurseries, black holes, and swirling nebulae. a cosmic maelstrom that defied conventional navigation. How are we supposed to find anything in that chaos? She wondered aloud. Lyra's bioluminescent tendrils pulsed with a soft, calming light. The precursors were masters of cosmic engineering. If the Star Child is there, it will reveal itself to those worthy of its power. As they entered the outskirts of the Nexus, the ship's sensors began to light up with warnings. Gravitational forces tugged at the star waver from all directions, while bursts of radiation from newborn stars threatened to overload their shields. The hybrid drive is destabilizing. Nova shouted over the groan of straining metal. We can't maintain this speed in these conditions. Zoe's mind raced, recalling fragments of her father's research. Wait, the quantum fluctuations, we can use them to our advantage. Her fingers flew over the holographic controls, implementing a daring plan. By synchronizing the ship's energy output with the natural quantum fluctuations of the Nexus, they could ride the cosmic currents like a surfer on a wave. The star waver shuddered, then smoothed out as it fell into rhythm with the swirling energies around it. Zoe let out a breathless laugh of relief and exhilaration. Incredible, Nova muttered, genuine admiration in her voice. Your species continues to surprise me, human. Their moment of triumph was short-lived, however. A massive shape loomed suddenly in their view screen, a shadowclave dreadnought, its obsidian hull bristling with weapons. How did they get here so fast? Lyra gasped, her usual calm demeanor shaken. The answer came in the form of a transmission that crackled through their comms. A face appeared on the screen, one that made Zoe's blood run cold. "Hello, daughter," said Dr. Jack Anderson, his eyes glowing an unnatural red. "I'm afraid your journey ends here." Zoe recoiled in shock. "Dad, what have they done to you?" Her father's face twisted into a cold smile. "They've opened my eyes, so. The Shadowclave isn't our enemy, they're our salvation. The Star Child's power will allow us to guide humanity's evolution, to take our rightful place among the stars." "This isn't you, Jack," Lyra interjected, her voice filled with sorrow. "Fight their control." Dr. Anderson's eyes flashed with anger. "Enough. Surrender now or be destroyed. The choice is yours." The transmission cut off, leaving the crew of the Star Waver in stunned silence. The Shadowclave dreadnought loomed ever closer, weapons charging. "Options?" Nova demanded, her hands hovering over the ship's defenses. Zoe closed her eyes, forcing herself to think past the shock and betrayal. When she opened them again, they blazed with determination. "We fight," she declared, "and we save my father in the process." What followed was a battle unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. The Star Waver danced through the cosmic maelstrom of the celestial nexus, using Zoe's ingenious quantum surfing technique to outmaneuver the much larger Shadowclave vessel. Nova's piloting skills were put to the ultimate test as she wove between stellar nurseries and gravity wells, using the chaotic environment to their advantage. Lyra's deep knowledge of Senna technology allowed them to improvise weapons and defenses on the fly, turning the Star Waver into a formidable warship. But it was Zoe's unique blend of human intuition and scientific brilliance that truly turned the tide. She realized that the same principles they were using to navigate the Nexus could be weaponized. By manipulating the quantum fluctuations around the Shadowclave ship, they could disrupt its systems from within. As the battle raged on, a strange phenomenon began to unfold. The swirling energies of the celestial nexus coalesced, forming a shimmering pathway that led deeper into the cosmic storm. "The Star Child," Lyra breathed in awe. "It's calling to us." With a daring maneuver, Nova piloted the Star Waver onto the quantum pathway, leaving the Shadowclave dreadnought floundering in their wake. They streaked towards the heart of the Nexus, where a pulsing sphere of pure energy awaited them. As they approached the Star Child, time seemed to slow. The sphere expanded, enveloping their ship in a cocoon of swirling light. Zoe felt a presence brush against her mind, ancient, vast, and infinitely wise. In that moment of connection, she understood. The Star Child wasn't just a source of power, It was a key to unlocking the hidden potential within all sentient beings. It didn't control evolution, it inspired it. With newfound clarity, Zoe reached out with her mind, guided by the Starchild's energy. She found her father's consciousness trapped beneath layers of shadowclave conditioning and began to unravel their hold on him. On board the dreadnought, Dr. Anderson's eyes cleared, the unnatural red glow fading. "Zoe," he whispered, confusion and recognition warring on his face. The Starchild's energy pulsed one final time, and a wave of transformative power swept through the Nexus. It washed over the Shadowclave ship, breaking their hold on Dr. Anderson and awakening the suppressed consciences of their entire crew. As the light faded, Zoe found herself back on the Starweaver's bridge, breathless and exhilarated. The holographic displays showed the Shadowclave dreadnought powering down, no longer a threat. What just happened?" Nova asked, her usual cool demeanor shaken. Lyra's eyes shimmered with joyous tears. "The awakening we've been waiting for. The Starchild didn't choose sides, it showed us a better path." A transmission came through from the Shadowclave ship. Dr. Anderson's face appeared, his eyes clear and filled with remorse. "Zoe, I'm so sorry. Can you ever forgive me?" Zoe felt tears streaming down her own cheeks as she nodded. "Of course, Dad. You're back. That's all that matters." As the two ships hung in the swirling beauty of the celestial nexus, a new era dawned. The Starchild's gift had unlocked not just the potential for technological advancement, but for spiritual and ethical growth as well. The threat of the Shadowclave was over, transformed into an opportunity for understanding and cooperation. Humanity, represented by Zoe and her father, had proven themselves worthy of joining the galactic community. Zoe looked out at the stars, feeling the weight of the future settling on her shoulders. There would be challenges ahead, bridges to build between vastly different cultures and species. But for the first time, she felt truly ready to face them. "So," she said, turning to her unlikely crew with a smile, "where do we go from here?" Lyra's tendrils pulsed with warm light. "Wherever we choose, Zoe. The galaxy is open to us now, full of wonders waiting to be discovered." As the Starweaver's engines hummed to life, Zoe felt a thrill of excitement. Their journey hadn't ended, it had only just begun, and with a perfect blend of human ingenuity and cosmic wisdom, there was no limit to what they might achieve. The stars beckoned, full of promise and possibility. And Zoe Anderson, once an ordinary graduate student, now a bridge between worlds, was ready to answer their call.